Take a close look at your fingers right now and try to extend them completely straight. If you notice a subtle, rhythmic quiver at the very tips, or if the skin around your knuckles feels unusually tight and dry despite using lotion, your body is flashing a warning light. It is not just a cosmetic issue, and it is definitely not just a normal sign of getting older. Your fingers are directly wired into your endocrine system, acting as a highly sensitive external radar for your thyroid gland. When your thyroid begins to fail, sputter, or burn out, it changes the very cellular structure, blood flow, and nerve conduction in your hands long before it ever shows up on a standard, basic blood test. What you need to know right now is that millions of people are walking around exhausted, unable to lose weight, and suffering from brain fog, completely unaware that their thyroid is actively struggling, yet the unmistakable physical clues have been sitting right there at the ends of their arms for months. Before we dive into these 3 critical finger changes, do something incredibly important for your health right now. Type the word metabolic in the comment section below so your brain actively locks in this information. Hit the like button so this vital warning can reach and save someone else who needs it, and subscribe to this channel immediately. By joining our community today, you are stepping into a group of thousands who refuse to guess about their health and are taking real control of their metabolic future. So hit those buttons right now before you forget. Now, to truly understand why your fingers hold the master key to your thyroid health, we have to look past the standard medical approach. Most people assume that if they have a slow metabolism, hair loss, or constant fatigue, they can just go to a doctor, get a quick TSH test, and get a simple answer. But here is what most people completely miss. The thyroid gland produces hormones that control the internal furnace of every single cell in your body, and your extremities, your hands and your feet, are the very first places to lose power when that furnace starts to die down. When thyroid hormone levels drop or spike unevenly, the peripheral capillaries in your fingers constrict, fluid builds up in the deep dermal tissue, and neuromuscular signals begin to misfire. This brings us directly to the very first subtle change you need to inspect on your fingers immediately, which is a fine, high-frequency kinetic tremor. I am not talking about a violent shaking where you cannot hold a cup of coffee. It is much more insidious than that. If you hold your hands straight out in front of you with your palms facing down and place a single piece of standard printer paper across the back of your fingers, do you see that paper vibrating or quivering rapidly? That is a classic telltale sign of an overactive thyroid condition known as hyperthyroidism. When the thyroid gland produces too much hormone, it overstimulates the central nervous system, throwing your body into a permanent, low-grade flight or fight response. It acts like a car engine stuck with the gas pedal pressed all the way down while the vehicle is in park. Your muscles are receiving a non-stop, rapid-fire stream of neurological commands to contract, creating a microtremor that is most visible in the fine motor muscles of your fingers. If you notice this subtle paper vibration, or if your hands constantly feel warm and slightly damp even in a cool room, drop a yes in the comments right now, because tracking these exact patterns is the first step to fixing them. And this is where things get even more serious, because while an overactive thyroid speeds everything up, an underactive thyroid does the exact opposite, which leads us to the second massive warning sign hiding in your fingers: the appearance of blunt, rounded, or clubbed fingertips, accompanied by deep, longitudinal ridges on your nails. If you look at your fingernails from the side, there should be a distinct downward angle where the nail plate meets the skin of the cuticle. However, when your thyroid slows down, your overall metabolic rate plummets, causing a severe drop in peripheral circulation. Because your fingers are at the absolute edge of your circulatory system, they become starved of oxygen and vital nutrients. To compensate, the tiny blood vessels at the tips of your fingers dilate, and a specialized gelatinous protein matrix begins to deposit beneath the nail bed. Over time, this causes the tips of your fingers to bulge slightly, taking on a shape that closely resembles the end of a drumstick. If you pair this with deep vertical ridges running from the base of your nail to the tip, your body is screaming that it lacks the basic thyroid hormone necessary to synthesize protein and manage tissue oxygenation. If you have ever noticed these vertical ridges on your nails and wondered what they meant, hit that like button right now, because understanding these connections is exactly how we prevent deeper health crises before they start. What happens next is the part that almost nobody talks about, and it involves the third highly overlooked change in your fingers: a localized thickening of the skin and a stiff, ropey tension in the tendons of your palms that prevents your fingers from lying flat on a table. When your metabolism is suppressed by low thyroid function, your body fails to properly break down complex sugars known as glycosaminoglycans. These heavy, fluid-attracting compounds begin to accumulate massively in the connective tissues of your hands. You might wake up in the morning and notice that your fingers feel stiff, puffy, and incredibly difficult to flex. You might find yourself struggling to open a tight jar or noticing that your handshake feels weaker than it did a year ago. Many people mistake this for standard arthritis or just a tough workout, but it is actually a profound metabolic shift. The tissue becomes dense and fibrous, sometimes mimicking a condition where the ring finger or pinky finger starts to pull slightly inward toward the palm. This is not a structural hand problem. It is a direct reflection of a systemic thyroid deficiency that is actively slowing down your body's ability to clear metabolic waste. But here is the absolute truth that your doctor is likely not telling you. Even if you recognize all three of these finger changes and go get a standard blood panel, your results might come back completely normal. The typical medical establishment relies almost exclusively on a metric called TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. TSH is a signal sent from your pituitary gland in your brain down to your thyroid, telling it to work. But measuring TSH is like looking at the thermostat on the wall instead of checking if there is actual wood burning in the fireplace. Your brain might be screaming at your thyroid to work perfectly, but your liver and your gut might completely fail to convert that raw thyroid hormone into the active form your cells desperately need. Approximately 80% of the thyroid hormone conversion process happens outside the thyroid gland itself, primarily in your liver. If you have a sluggish liver, a fatty liver, or high levels of systemic inflammation from eating refined carbohydrates and sugars, your body cannot convert the inactive hormone, called T4, into the active fat-burning hormone, called T3. This means you can have a textbook perfect TSH score on paper while your fingers, your hair, and your metabolism are actively starving for thyroid hormone. If this is making sense to you and changing how you view your body, subscribe to the channel right now because we are completely breaking down the old broken medical myths that keep people sick. To make matters even more complicated, there is a hidden trigger that completely paralyzes your thyroid function, and it is directly linked to chronic, unmanaged stress and high levels of a hormone called cortisol. When you are under constant emotional, financial, or physical stress, your adrenal glands pump out massive amounts of cortisol. Cortisol acts as a direct molecular brake on your thyroid gland. It signals your body that it is entering a state of famine or danger, forcing your metabolism to grind to a halt to conserve energy. High cortisol blocks the conversion of T4 to active T3 and instead diverts that hormone into an inactive mirror image molecule called reverse T3. Reverse T3 acts like a broken key jammed inside your cellular locks. It sits on your thyroid receptors, blocks the real hormone from getting in, and completely shuts down your ability to burn fat, generate body heat, or repair your tissues. This is precisely why your fingers get cold, stiff, and weak when you are highly stressed. Your body is deliberately shutting down circulation to your extremities to protect your vital internal organs, operating under the false impression that you are fighting for survival in a wilderness. So if you are looking down at your hands right now and seeing the fine tremors, the vertical nail ridges, the blunt clubbing, or the stiff, puffy tissue, what is your absolute best, most effective next step? You cannot just treat the symptoms by rubbing cream on your hands or taking random over-the-counter supplements. You have to aggressively fix the underlying environmental signals that are holding your metabolism hostage. You must focus heavily on supporting your liver and your gallbladder because without bile and a clean, functioning liver, your thyroid hormones remain completely inert and useless. You need to eliminate the toxic, inflammatory vegetable oils, the refined grains, and the hidden sugars that create the exact cellular resistance blocking your thyroid receptors in the first place. You must flood your body with trace minerals like selenium, zinc, and iodine, which act as the raw structural building blocks your body requires to assemble and activate these life-giving hormones. Your health transformation begins the moment you stop looking at your body as a collection of isolated, broken parts and start recognizing that every single symptom, from a quiver in your fingernail to a stall in your weight loss, is a beautifully coordinated message from an intelligent system begging for the right lifestyle inputs. Right now, take a second to type your experience in the comments below, hit that like button to spread this powerful metabolic truth, and make sure you are subscribed so you never miss a single step in this health journey. Now that you know exactly what your fingers are warning you about your thyroid, the absolute most critical next step is to master the precise dietary strategy that repairs your liver, lowers your cortisol, and turns your metabolic furnace back on. For that exact blueprint, you need to watch this video right here.